Hope TV is now available. Hope TV. Hope TV is now available on GoTV channel 103, Zuku channel 873, Signet channel 817 and Star Times channel 026. Enjoy our uplifting content and family-friendly programming anytime. Hope TV, you look and live.
On this show, it all depends on the time zone from where you are watching. Welcome to The Leader, courtesy of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya on Hope Media. In The Leader, we discuss issues, governance, leadership, and all. And today, once again, we're privileged to have with us Bwana Vincent Kimosop.
Thank you, sir.
Karibu sana. Vincent is a policy and governance expert at Sovereign Insight. And you've also served on the
Kenya Christian Professionals
Kenya Christian Professionals Forum.
I do serve, I'm the secretary.
You're the secretary.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful credentials.
Yes, thank you. We are in the vineyard. We are in the vineyard. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. And I like that in the vineyard because in the vineyard it's all about
stewardship.
Stewardship.
And also we are men who have been entrusted with a treasure. Knowing that there will also be moments and periods of accountability. And accountability not only to the stakeholders that we see,
yes,
but also to the invisible one, the faithful witness. So that's one of the responsibility or the mandate that we carry.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Now, today the topic is Kenya at Crossroads. Which way forward?
Yes.
The more things change, the more they remain the same.
I subscribe to different school of thoughts,
yes.
Which is our wonderful book that says, "Behold, I'm doing a different thing." That's my subscription. And the terminology that you have used in terms of Kenya at Crossroads, there is a gentleman, a prophet, Jeremiah, who tells people, please go back to the crossroads and look and ask for the ancient paths and walk ye in them. So crossroads are very important,
yes,
particularly because they give us opportunities to reflect what works, what is not working, what should be the right thing, what should we do right, when, by who, where, and why. So if you put all those together, is that we are in a good place. We're in a good place. A week ago,
yes,
I spoke to one of the leading journalists in Kenyan media. She, and I think I can mention her.
Yes, please do.
Yvonne Okwara.
Yes.
Of your sister
Royal
media
Media.
station,
Yes.
Royal Media. And she asked me, Vincent, you as a professional, what do you see? That was last Monday. Today's on Tuesday.
Right.
And I told her, we've been here. At that time, we were at the heart of Maandamano. The country was, we are ready. It's now Monday. We will do it on Tuesday. This week was meant to be the week where it was going to be on a daily basis.
Yes.
I told her, Yvonne, we've been here before. I remembered an experience we had in 2016.
Yes.
At that time, I was providing technical support to the National Council of Churches, and I was working closely with Canon Reverend Peter Karanja.
Yes, I recall.
At that time, the code had said IEBC must go. And then then Kenyatta said, the constitution is clear that we have a constitution that outlines if you want to remove electoral commissions, there's a process, you form a tribunal. That's the constitution. Do you know? Reverend Canon told me, I have a prophetic role. What do we do? And we had a conversation, and he went on air, and he said, we agree with the opposition that IEBC must go. Then the president, I'm using the benefit of history.
Yes.
And with that, then the president said that, Reverend Karanja, why would you say that IEBC must go? There is a constitution. These people are protected. They have a security of tenure. And I'm saying this to give credit and also to learn from history. Say, Your Excellency, you are the president. There is only one president at one time for the Republic of Kenya. And you're the president for all those who voted for you,
and even those
who did not vote for you. You're the one who wields the sword.
Yes.
When a segment of the political establishment, as already said, IEBC must go, you cannot ignore that voice, because you therefore require to go into an election that has the legitimacy, perceived or not, whether it's legal or not, of then all the political players. So what do? Not all problems are constitutional. Not all problems are economic. So you then use the opportunity to transform as a leader so as to transition the country. Okay.
Very profound. Yeah.
Wow. So what do you expect? He says if it means transitioning the electoral management body in ways that they can be compensated because they have not broken any law, so that is why that is the country requires that.
That's
now,
price.
When he said that, some of the media houses locally, because some of them even vernacular, he was castigated. He was saying, "Oh, he's already has gone to the opposition." You know, all those talk. That's one of the. Yes. I am saying all this.
Right.
But remember when we had that discussion, he said, "You know, Vincent, we have a prophetic responsibility. As a prophetic responsibility, ours is to point people in the right direction." So he said, "So what do we do?" He says, "Your Excellency, it means transitioning, find a framework where you have an election commission." Let me tell you, that process went on. We had a new commission, Chebukati. We went to the 2017 elections. You know what transpired. Now, because this came in late, to some extent, even the members of the opposition then were surprised that the church has agreed to say because they expected an antagonistic approach. But when he said, "Yeah, you have said IEBC must go. That's what you want to participate in the election. We will give you. Your Excellency, we've spoken to you." I'm giving that experience because that's what I told Yvonne. 1 week from now, I can tell you we will be out of this. Said how? So that what is going to happen is that the issues that the opposition are raising have grounds. You cannot ignore the cost of living. You cannot ignore the issue of the IEBC reconstitution. You cannot ignore the issue of, because there were 4 issues. You cannot ignore, for example, those 2. The basis where we have this is in the Kofi Annan conversation in 2007. Now, so one, you have to acknowledge that they have grounds in what they're raising. They might not be all the grounds, but for me, the 2, the issues of cost of living and the issues of reconstitution. Now, the difference is the approach. And already the president has spoken to this process. He has written a memorandum to the National Assembly and to the Senate about the official opposition, members of the executive being accountable in parliament, and then also the issue of 2/3. So the difference, Yvonne, is the approach. So I told her, what's going to happen? An approach is going to be found. And I made a recommendation. She asked, how do we deal with it? Says this needs to be engaged from an institutional perspective. And the Constitution says very clearly, one of the roles of the National Assembly is to discuss an issue of national concern. So if this is an issue of national concern, let it go there. Let it go there. And I want to give praise to the Lord for the statement that came from the president that said, we will talk about these issues. And you notice, as a result of that, now the conversation has shifted. So, Edmund, I would want to say this. We have a history, we have attempted to address these issues, but we've not always done them conclusively. Our mistake is usually, we allow the politicians to lead us. And if you could give me time, let me just take you a historical journey.
Yes, sir.
In 1997, we had IEBC, we had no reform, no elections campaign. That's 1997.
Yes.
So when civil society went out, no reforms, no elections, then the politicians said, wow, these guys are organized. If we don't jump into this,
become
irrelevant.
Yes.
They formed the IPPG.
Yes.
So what happened? The civil society allowed them to lead the process, but only they had consensus on minimum reforms, including the reconstitution of the ECK that time. So we went to an election in 1997. And then thereafter, we had the outcome. Then in 2007, we also had, we did not build on the experience of IPPG. So what happened? The reconstitution of ECK in 2007 was one of the seeds that sowed the seeds of discord towards the election in 2007. Another mistake that we also made in 2007 is the referendum in 2005. So why I'm saying this is that those who are in the apex of politics, that is the president, including the opposition, need to appreciate that it is not enough just to have a political deal.
No.
If you don't address the underlying
fundamentals,
issues, which, for example, includes the issues of unemployment. We have many young people. People can call a rally on Monday and stadiums are full, telling you very clearly that these young people don't have something that they are doing.
True.
So if you look at then Kofi Annan process, it brought 4 agendas. Agenda number 1 was we need to stop the violence. Agenda number 2, we need to provide humanitarian support to the people who are hurting. Agenda number 3 was sorting out the political crisis, which brought us national accord.
Right.
But we had agenda number 4. Agenda number 4 had the following. 1, undertaking long constitutional, legal, and institutional reforms. So 2010, we had a new constitution. Now, agenda number 2 was addressing the issues of youth unemployment and regional inequalities and differences.
Yes, yeah, right.
Then number 3 was the issues of unemployment, particularly among the young people. Then agenda number 4 was consolidating national unity. So there is one mistake we made in 2010. When we adopted the presidential system in 2010, we went for a pure presidential system. Now, if you look at Wako draft, you look at Kilifi draft, you look at even the harmonized draft, not Naivasha. For example, we have always had a position of leader of official opposition. We had a position of prime minister in all those drafts. Now, when we went for pure parliamentary system in 2010, that for me was a mistake because our politics is done and canvassed in an ethnic perspective.
That's
so what happens?
Engage,
it facilitates exclusion instead of facilitating inclusion. So one of the things that I would recommend, and I expect that will come out of this, and I'm happy, even the president has made his submission, is the restoration of the position of leader of official opposition. Actually, what is needed is we need to broaden the executive, which the president has already done by introducing the prime cabinet secretary position very cleverly. So we need to institutionalize that. And then number 2, we need to have a dignified or a facilitated opposition. Instead of people going to the streets.
You have a channel.
No, ensure that they access parliament because somebody like the former prime minister, he does not have a way of accessing parliament.
So he can't speak up from the outside.
Please just facilitate these people. The president of Tanzania, Suluhu Hassan, said something recently that was quite profound. She said, we have realized there's no one who has the title deed of Tanzania. And she said that we require to appreciate that for Tanzania to move ahead, we need the contribution of everybody. So she, without amending the constitution, says we want the opposition to be part of national conversation and development. And do you know, recently, during the International Women's Day, the responsibility was given to the opposition, and the chief guest was Her Excellency. Says, and you know what happens? People realize we can actually contribute towards developing Tanzania. So instead of the energy of Mandamano, being in the streets, channel it to national development.
To become productive.
Yes.
Very interesting. But in all this, and by suggesting interesting title that we have today, Kenya at Crossroads, not necessarily that we've traveled on a path and then suddenly we must make. No, because I would like to see it with the benefit of introspection. that at any one time,
yes,
even at the individual level, you are at crossroads, not because you do not know what to do, but I would unpack it in terms of decisions to be made, benefits of the past, now in the present, looking into the future. Where do we go?
Yeah.
And who do you carry along? Just the way you're broken down.
And do you know, we had another process. That's what I'm saying. It's very encouraging to see the team that will actually sit, the bipartisan team. They will look at our past. Look at the BBI, the issues within BBI that confirmed the 2007 agenda for items. So if you just look at what is in BBI, look at what was in agenda for item, and also look at what the religious leaders have been saying through it's called the DRG, the Dialogue Reference Group. If you look at all those things together, in fact, it's so clear what the agenda. Now, I'm very happy you've given us this conversation. The politicians will agree. I can tell you, they will agree in terms of even reconstitution of IBC. The politicians will agree. But I really want to ask and make my request even through this platform, that this conversation, in my view, should not be left to the political class.
No.
And I want to humbly submit to the media and also to civil society, to religious groups, that they should actually help Kenyans by looking at 2007, looking at 1997, looking at 2007, look at BBI, look at the DRG, the Dialogue Reference Group. From the lessons we see is that the politicians will agree, move ahead, but they will, leaving the long-term issues is what, therefore, after 5 years, we are back to the same table. Yes. So for me, one of the things I would want to see is a process that, of course, led by as the president proposed, the bipartisan, but a broadened conversation. Where, for example, we are able to bring the different stakeholders to share and to provide the input into the process.
Right.
One of the things that I would recommend if I was given an opportunity is, if you look at this agenda of the president under the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, it's an economic agenda. I would actually highly recommend for the president to consider adding an agenda of consolidating national unity and doing more on the issues of national cohesion. And this is my recommendation. Then there is need to reconstitute the National Integration and Cohesion Commission. That commission, in my view, they did not utilize a golden opportunity that they had towards this election. And if they looked at this election from a more strategic point, they would have elevated the conversation and looked at the agenda of all the presidential candidates and asked the question, what are you going to do to bring this country together? Right. So for me, one of the things that I would want to see is that, can we relook at institutions? Let's look at a National Cohesion and Integration Commission. It's not a hate speech commission.
Exactly. It shouldn't be just one of reactionary all the time.
And it should be a commission that elevates and facilitates a national engagement on how do we bring our country together. That, for me, would be an important thing. We also need to look at an institution like the ethics and anti-corruption, because one major issue that remains to be an issue that plagues our country is the issue of corruption. Should we separate the prosecution role and then or the issues of investigation, maybe take it to let it be a police or a criminal, just so that they can then take up the ethics and the values conversation. That, for me, would be one of the things that I would love to see as part of this conversation. The other thing that also be very critical is, what are we doing to inspire hope for our young people? When you have a significant population that is below the age of 35 and they are not meaningfully engaged in driving the economy, they can actually be taken advantage by politicians. So, Edmund, if that becomes the conversation, then what's going to happen? Kenya will emerge out of this crossroads as a victorious. It will not be a Ruto Raila deal. It will be a Kenyan deal.
For all of us.
It will be, and that for me would be, if you can, together with your colleagues, even in the media, how can we make sure in this conversation it's a Kenyan deal? It is not two people. And that's where at times the media falls short of glory. And I think since you are a veteran in the space, for commercial reasons, the media likes to put this versus this. So Raila versus, so like you just like for now, it was Kibaki Raila, then Uhuru Raila, then now Ruto. That kind of boxing Kenyans into two positions is limiting us.
It's actually limiting us.
We need to elevate the conversation to become a Kenyan conversation, where we confront the devil, we confront the issues that bedevil us, and then we look for long-term solutions, so that the reporting is challenging, it is inspiring, it is hopeful, it is providing alternatives, and it is also forward-looking.
You know, it's interesting you said that because you can look at some of the thematic directions that are being suggested.
Yes.
Is by defining bipartisan, multi-sectoral. They also want to be part of this. It's like, let them be, and others want to come on the table. That in itself, I think, is helping increase on the headlining positions, just stamping and asking, you wanted this, I've given you this.
No, but you see, and then also what it does, it makes it, you prepare people like Ruto has lost or Raila has won. You know, it's a lower level of conversation.
It's actually very low level.
And that's, and if my submission this morning is that we need to elevate the conversation.
Yeah.
Elevate the conversation, and the advantage is we know the issues. So you don't need to have gone to Harvard to see what is it that we need to address. And then the advantages, we have left the individual. It's not Ruto Raila. It should be left to our institution, like Parliament. And then let's then have a broad-based conversation on these issues, and then Kenya to emerge winner. And not to say so-and-so won, or that for me, and that the people too who have that responsibility is the media. Unfortunately, at times, it looks like you guys, the papers sell, or the news get more coverage when it is. And I think if that is transformed, because at times, and then also we also need to, another thing that we may want to share in this conversation is our opposition politics needs to evolve. The only issues that demonstrations need to lead to be violent is something we have to confront. People can still pass their message without the destruction of property, without the destruction of life, so that like what happened in South Africa on the 20th of March, Julius Malema led a protestation, and they marched in the streets. They were taken. It was the police provided security. The message was passed, and people went home. Can that be one of the things we would want to see happen moving ahead?
And you know, and there's some what I'd call elephants in the room, or frogs, as it were.
Yes.
Even just the whole space of how we do our politics, for example,
yes, sir,
in terms of the political parties themselves, if you don't have governance in political parties, if you don't have inclusivity in political parties in all perspectives, including gender, including age, including diversity, including inclusivity, that you go beyond being only regional based and only recognize at the elections that you have lost, you have won, yet the vehicle that you use to get there in itself has issues. Why would we want to believe that you will change when you now get there?
Change is incremental. If you read the book of Abraham Lincoln on leading in tough or leading through crisis, it's a book that talks about leadership. Ultimately, tough times produce tough men.
Yeah.
And tough times, those who transform tough times for the benefit of their country actually end up becoming the benchmark. I will tell you this. Democracy is not perfect, but it's something that we have to keep working on it. I would actually point out that we need to there's somebody who talks about why Singapore got to where they got, and talks about what we call a merit-based system. So let's we retain the issue of merit in our public service. Then the issue of pragmatism, because this issue of praising democracy, we need to customize democracy to work in our context. And what do I mean democracy that works in our context? We have seen that our political parties, I think apart from KANU, so far I think the party that for me I would really celebrate is a party like KANU, that they have seen their high days, their low moments, but they're still in existence. So we build our political parties. How do you build our political parties? We build political parties by, we need to change certain things around management of political parties. Currently, political parties are funded based on their representation in parliament. I think that is wrong. We need to make funding of political parties based on membership, so that you're able to see how many members do you have, how many people have you recruited. Clearly, that can be verified and your numbers, so that if you don't, because you see what's going to happen, if the more numbers, it will also mirror the number of what is the number that you have in parliament. That's or right, yeah. Have a weighted framework where your registered numbers have a significant impact in how much that you receive. So that kind of a conversation.
Because then you become accountable to your membership.
Yes,
as
because people parties. Can be able to say that this is what in South Africa.
Belonging to individuals.
In South Africa, ANC,
yes.
ANC can summon the president.
Yes.
As a political party.
And tell him no.
That is not. This is what we did not promise the people. Yeah. Now, what does that do? You foster accountability. So those are that's what I'm saying. When we broaden this conversation, Norman and Edmond, it ensures that Kenyans emerge stronger. I would love to see the churches. I was part of a process this week. We issued a statement, part of the NCCK and KCCB and team that met at Fungamano on Tuesday, and pointed out that these are the issues that must be discussed, broaden the engagement. So I know they will broaden the engagements as Parliament provides the process. What I foresee out of this is the reintroduction of the position of official opposition. The president had already spoken about it, so you know already his position through his memorandum. The opposition will not mind that position. That for me will be one major outcome of this process. I also foresee that we may actually have a constitutional amendment to address the issues of two-third gender representation. We will also members of parliament are likely to utilize this opportunity to institutionalize CDF. We might have a constitutional amendment.
As the interest there now.
So I've told you, these the politicians, the people to speak, the people to watch here is getting Kenyans to also be part of this process. So one of the things that I would want to see is how we are addressing those issues I've pointed out of integrity, of accountability. I would also want to see a situation whereby how do we ensure that we entrench the issues to do with, I think I've talked about the two-third, because our legislature falls short of that. I would also want to see out of this process the media. We have been talking so much about rights, but there is very little discussion about responsibility. When you say I have a right to demonstrate, I have a right to associate, I have a right to do this, what are the responsibilities that comes with those rights? Even I see the media quoting a lot the freedom of the media, but what are the responsibilities of the media?
True.
So that it is. I'm happy I'm saying this here,
Yes.
because here is the leader. You know, leaders have to face tough conversations.
Another interesting is, while we're at it, is that when you seek elective office and you sell yourself as an individual through whatever vehicle that you're going to use to the people, that's what the people bought, right?
Yes.
And when you now get it, you don't exclude the people to jump. I'm talking about now party hopping.
Oh,
in dealing with it, so you'll find that even
the
though
law is already, the law has dealt with the issue of party hopping. But our issue is the enforcement.
Enforcement of the same.
The enforcement of it. And the enforcement, because the law is very clear that if you want, if you
have to go back
from one party to another party, you then have a responsibility of.
But don't we fall then a potential risk
of what?
Of watering down or creating grey areas and escape? It's like Chapter 6. It's very clear.
The Chapter 6 is
but enforcement of the same and understanding.
And that's why I was talking about an institution like EACC. We've also left the issues of integrity and accountability to become a legal issue. The issues of accountability are not just legal. They're also moral. They're also social. When you tell me that meeting Chapter 6 is getting just a certificate from DCI,
it becomes very transactional, ticking a box.
It's a low level. We need to really see that, to it that we broaden the conversation so that integrity counts. I also want to say this. Money is becoming so influential in our politics. This is another elephant we need to bring to the room. Because if it becomes too expensive to offer yourself for leadership, it means very clearly when you get that position,
you have to pay back.
You have to recoup.
I mean,
and with that, you make politics very susceptible to manipulation and investment for racketeers, for even people who are in wrong businesses. So that is another thing that I would really love to see it confronted. Because it is not cheap to be in politics.
Now we're getting to what I'm calling elephant. That elephant seems to be hard in the room, in the sense that cost of elections in Kenya.
Yes.
To the individual, it's one of the highest in the world. And when you unpack why, we're actually paying for the trust deficit that we have. And value deficit. That's what it is.
And also beyond trust.
Yes.
Because I chaired a campaign for a candidate. And for two candidates.
Yes.
And man, it is not cheap. Even for an MCA, you'll be able to see at times if you don't have like 10 million for certain positions. And
don't even try attempt. You won't.
Even your friends, a friend of mine, yesterday we were having this discussion. He told me he's planning to run in 2027. And
so as to build a war chest.
His friend told him, please don't just show me how much you spend in the elections. Show me how much how much money you have after the elections to use to recover. And so we have a political system that punishes people for offering themselves for leadership. So that is another issue. And in my mother tongue, building on what Plato is saying, leadership is not for merchants.
No.
Leadership is for philosophers and lovers of the republic. Those who are in business can do merchants. Now, when you bring merchants into leadership, what happens? You sell leadership for the highest bidder. Now, the challenge with that is that the person who sponsors that person are the people who will actually be in charge. They will tell him, we will allow you to do this, we will not allow you. But if leadership goes for philosophers, people who love the republic, then they will be able to make sacrifices. I gave you the example of Abraham Lincoln. He is sworn in, and already there is dismembering. You have cessation. People are moving, breaking the republic. And his statue at the mall in Washington, on one hand, he is holding a copy of the Constitution. On one hand, he is actually extending a finger in terms of seeking partnerships, reconciliations with breakaway states. What am I trying to point out? at this point, one of the #1 responsibility for the president is that he swore to uphold the Constitution. And the Constitution is the document that keeps this country together. But also on one hand, the president should continuously have his hand extended, greeting and partnering with people. Now, I'm not talking, remember, I'm not talking about handshake.
No.
Because
handshake
has a
connotation. Yes.
I'm talking about the Ministry of Reconciliation. And the role of the church in this space is to prophetically, continuously speak in line with the word of God, truth. The way I gave you the example of what we did with what Karanja did in 2016, and that moves the country ahead.
Forward.
So at this point, I also want to say, one of the mistakes that the church makes at times, because the church is wired for preaching the word of God, baptism, weddings, burials, you know, all that. But now it is important for the church to go back to appreciate the mandate of actually speaking to national issues. Because they come up when there is a crisis, and then they go back to their things. Then when there is another crisis, they come up. So we now need to move beyond the issue of only coming up when there is a crisis. Even when there is peace, you need to be watching, because one responsibility of people at the crossroads is the watchman responsibility. Are we still in track? You know, the people who have the plump line, they might not be doing a lot of work, but they're always holding to check, hey, are you on course? So that kind of thing is required. But, and I want to really challenge the media, challenge the private sector, challenge the faith community, civil society, to be able to have thematic-based engagement, so that we also appreciate, for this country to go ahead, it requires more than the government. It requires all hands on deck, so that then we progress and we move Kenya forward.
And when one says siasa imeisha, politics imeisha, sasa ni maendeleo.
What is politics?
Exactly.
No,
so it begs the question.
No, it is campaigns.
Campaigns. That is how they define it.
It should be campaigns. Campaigns are over, but politics.
You cannot divorce. It is part of life.
Authoritative.
Yes.
Politics is authoritative allocation of resources. If we are having resources to be allocated, appointments to be made, money to be apportioned in parliament, but that is a political engagement. You cannot run away.
Exactly.
So this thing, that's why we come, Edmund, to such platform. So as this is political discussion. And even the program is called The Leader, who is leadership is a political conversation. Yes. So what has happened is that campaigns are over for elective positions. But then engagement is
continuous.
Ongoing.
It's ongoing.
And I wish the media appreciated the mandate and the enormous responsibilities it has. Because it's good to have this discussion in such a place. I'm really happy. Hope TV is bringing this conversation in ways where we can be able to look at the Word of God, look at the model of Christianity, and actually shine the light outside there. The theme of CITAM for this year, I think I read it is in His presence. The Bible says, in His presence there is fullness of joy. One of the things Kenyans require is to have joy. When the president spoke and said that we will have a bipartisan approach, there was a sigh of relief across the country. Then the opposition responding positively to that. You notice, have you just noticed the atmosphere as that is what leadership can do. Assuming he said something to the contrary. Are you getting the point? So that's why I would want to really challenge our different segments. I am pointing out to the churches, I'm talking about to the civil society, private sector. Another space that is missing in all this is the academia. I don't know what has happened to the academia. We are not hearing their voice from an intellectual research knowledge generation. What are we learning? So that we make evidence-based decisions. I also see another sector, the professional organizations, where they're able to see. I would love to hear his pack. I would love to, what are the options about looking at our taxes? Because, and what can we do to even broaden our tax base? We would also want to look at the whole issues of organizations that are the humanitarian. I know the diplomat spoke the other day. You know, the interesting thing, we have diplomats who speak here. Our diplomats don't speak in their countries. Donald Trump was arrested, was presented in court.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Kenyan ambassador to the U.S. has issued a statement there. They come and issue statements. You know, anyway, that's a discussion for another day.
Yes. No, that's very interesting. And calling out that we're continuously enriching ourselves, and even at the individual level, your responsibility in terms of you made your choice, including making no choice in itself is a choice, and being prepared to live with the consequence of that choice. However, the fact is, we are here.
We have, you know, when you are in a hole, the most, and you realize you are in a hole, the first thing is stop digging. So we are where we are. We have a country. We went to an election, and as I said, there are things that cannot be resolved by elections, like the responsibility of building a nation. Is a responsibility everybody must make their contribution. So once we appreciate that, like one of the recommendations I would love to see this administration adopt is what President Kibaki did in 2000 and that was before 2007. It's called the GJ Laws Program. Governance, Justice, Law and Order sector. And because it said, if we had to address corruption, the government will not do alone. If we are to have reforms in the security sector, we need the voices of different, we need the perspective of everybody. That collaborative approach to development, that if you're saying like you are doing work in the humanitarian sector, why would I take maize to people if you're taking the same? You take maize, I'll take beans. Or why are we even taking those things in the first place to those communities? Can we also change our conversation? Maybe we need to go and work with them on the ground to be able to do things different so people can be self-reliant. You know, just changing the conversation. For me, that's one of the things I'd love to see as an example, and replicating that in different areas. That was in the justice, law, governance, law and order sector. What can be done in the agricultural sector? Having a multi-sectoral partnership framework in the health sector, so that we synergize and avoid unnecessary competition. I also want to point out, Edmond, is the same thing needs to be done even thematically, even organizations that are working for young people, because we have such a great potential. If the energies of our young people are directed gainfully to productive engagements, wonders can happen out of this. So the other thing I just wanted to point out is facilitating, you know, issues of value addition and helping our people to appreciate that they can move from one point to another. So that then you have a government that facilitates, a government that unholds, and then it also celebrates what people can see that, hey, we are moving from one point to another. And also celebrating success and also at times failure, because there are many lessons that are buried in failure.
Exactly. Actually, what's important is not that you don't fall down, but every time you fall, you pick yourself up. Now,
rise up.
Rising in matter of parting, as it were. I mean, I love the discussion, but time is not with us. What would you give as a way forward, or what would your parting shot be in terms of message to all of us that would encourage inclusivity?
I think at this moment, as I said, we need to conclude the conversations and implement the things that we saw in Agenda 4, we saw in BBI, we saw in DRG. That for me would be very important. We also need to continuously change our discussions as a country. I find at times the conversation, when read the newspaper, they are not challenging to produce the greats. They are more like working towards pitting people one against the other instead of bringing people together. That for me would be one of the things I'd want to see happen. And also the other thing that we would also want to see is appreciate we don't have any other country. The Kenya, you know, our national anthem that says, "Oh God of all creation, blessed is our land and nation." And this is beyond defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty, and plenty be found within our borders. The journey of cultivating plenty. So if you are in the media, can we have a media that cultivates plenty out of our country? The same to government, the same to the private sector, the same to our faith-based organizations. And then just the journey of incremental progress from one level to another. If we do that, my brother, I don't see, there is nothing we would want to see or we would want to do as a people that we cannot do. We are in a wonderful place as a country. Yes. I am an optimist of seeing a better Kenya. If you look at globally at the moment, Edmond, look at the Western powers are shrinking. Then even in multilateral institutions like IMF, World Bank, institutions like even including the UN, if they don't change, they will be overtaken by time, because the globe, the center of the globe is shifting. India, China, combined together with Africa, just 3 continents, two continents. That is where a big part of the global population is. So what therefore is required is a reflection on realigning and repurposing our institutions to produce and to facilitate the best from among us. This is in terms of our churches, this is in terms of our media, this is in terms of our government, and also even including our private sector. We are a leading country, and therefore as a leading country, let's lead on all fronts. And we lead on all fronts, what's going to happen? Then therefore, if you go to the farm, you don't need a referendum to know which fruit is ripe.
It's very evident.
It will be evident. Yeah. I think there will be no referendum as to whether we are making progress or not. I think if we do that, we will be on the right trajectory to becoming the country that we would want to be, that says, let all and one arise with common bonds united to build a country that we will all be proud to call home.
Indeed, what a discussion.
Thank you.
And it feels like we've only just begun.
Yeah,
I think this calls for season 2.
No problem.
And you started by saying that we actually are in a good place.
Yes.
Inspire hope. Let's all get involved. It's all hands on deck. That has been the leader, Kenya at Crossroads. Which way forward? Now we know. Next week, same time. God bless. Thank you for the privilege of your time. I'm Edmund Mudibo. Thank you.
Because women talk more and they are not very strong physically, when they want to hurt their husbands or their children or anybody, they use the tongue.
Families under God.
How can we continue to live